Welcome back, everyone, to another fantastic episode from here at Live Reality Games. You can follow us at Live Reality Games on Facebook, as probably most of you are tonight. So thank you very much for joining in. You can also follow us streaming live over on our YouTube page, which is / you guessed it, Live Reality Games. My name is Dustyn. I am one of the podcasters here and kind of one of the managers behind the scenes trying to get all these podcasts lined up for you fans and audience people at home that are watching. And we are joined head podcaster on Survivor CNU. We have Destiny.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to take my 1 second to shout out my husband who is allowing me to step away from our 10th wedding anniversary. So thanks, Joe, for supporting me in everything that I do, if you ever watch this.
It's always the support from our significant others that really make this happen too. Without them, Kirk does all the cooking and everything. So surprise, thank you as well for that. I'll just back that up. But hey, we have a very special episode. We just concluded second season of Survivor CNU in Deep Water. And we find out at the end of everything, we have our winner here tonight, Shaggy. Welcome. Congratulations.
Hello. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Are we more excited or relieved to have this season kind of come to an end?
It's a nice, a little bit of both. It's a nice relieving just conclusion to the whole thing. It's exciting that it's nice that I'm not every week there's that coming up. What are people going to think of that thing I did? But it's also it's kind of a little bit sad because I'm this thing that I've done, the experience is not over, but it's finally come to a full conclusion because of the whole experience as a whole, which has been genuinely, I think this was one of the funnest, this is one of the greatest things I've ever done, but it's definitely the most exciting thing I've done at CNU while I've been here. So, yeah.
So we talk about it to a lot of the other cast. It's been 2-ish years, a little less. How hard is it to keep that you won the game a secret to everyone? Because you can't tell people. You have to and then the episodes start airing. I've been in that shoes where episodes air and people are like, do you win? And I'm like, I can't tell you, don't, but you want to, because you're like, oh my God, yes, I did. How hard was that for you?
It was pretty hard. I know there was rumors going around and with people, and there was a thing of, I never outright told anyone. I don't think that wasn't on the cat. That wasn't, in the cast that already knew who won. But it was definitely hard. It's a thing of, I think the only person that really, really knew was my mom, because fun fact, this entire thing I played kind of with her, because almost after every week I would call her up and be like, Mom, I'm freaking out. And my mom would be like, it's okay. And then I'd just talk to her about it, and I'd review what happened on the week, and we just kind of chat about it. And she was definitely the person who was with me the whole game, just being my a little cheerleader person. And it was yeah.
I freaking knew a woman got the win at the end of this season. So Shaggy did not, in fact, win. His mom did.
No, but my mom definitely even in a way of just to have someone to talk to about everything. This, as fun as this game was, it was definitely an extremely stressful game. I think Lily said in her episode with you guys, she was stressed out, and she could tell I was stressed out. I was exhausted because it was really fun, and the excitement and adrenaline that I was getting from this kept me going, but also it was taking a toll on me, especially since I was juggling, since you juggle the game and a social life / all of college. So, yeah.
I definitely can see where it would be just so consuming, where you're laying in bed and you're like, I have a paper to write. Oh my God, do you think they have an idol? And then you like go through. So shout out to your mom. I don't think you said her name. So shout out to Shaggy's mom. Um, and just being the person, moms are really good, or just that special person that you have to like not judge you when you're like, hey, I have this crazy idea. Where if you say it to a player in the game, right? Like we get
Yeah.
to see Colin Bunn do, he talks about these crazy ideas, and then you're like, dang, he's actually not an idiot. Like he's kind of smart. And you can't do that because now he's got this big brain idea. He's not really as dumb as we thought. Or
Call it
is he? Or
that.
not? So I'm glad you had somebody to bounce off your ideas with, which we do get to see you come up with a lot of ideas in this game. So many ideas. I can't wait to talk about them. Going almost all the way back to the beginning when you were in this really solid majority alliance. It's even pre-Pinky Pact. There's this group of you that kind of forms together. And you are the one who brings in Colin Bunn to this new mystery gang, which you got them to name after you.
Yeah, I'm curious about that in general. Shaggy, of course, you are the namesake for the mystery gang. Was that ever brought up, or how did that name come to fruition?
We were talking about it, and as far as I can remember, so what happened was we were all sitting in a group, and we couldn't come up with a name. But then someone, it might have been Lily that said it, but someone was like, well, Shaggy, we could be like the mystery. How many of us are there? And then we're like, as many. We're like, we could be the mystery gang. So we all went around deciding who was who on the mystery gang. Like I was obviously Shaggy, and then we picked out a Fred, a Velma, a Daphne, and then a Scooby. And I think the one of the things that I remember was like, I think there was a fight over there was one too many people, so there was a little debate over who would be. There was Scooby, and then we had another part, so someone was like the mystery machine or something like that. And there was a debate over who would be which one of those. But
Scrappy couldn't get a role.
I think Scrappy was mentioned, but not enough people knew who Scrappy was to like.
So you went for the mystery van, huh?
I guess, but so yeah, there was that whole conversation. Then it kind of just stuck. It was a fun little, especially since like the color of white. I think that was brought into like the mystery aspect of it. So yeah,
I think it'd be more fun if you're like, I'm Fred. They're like, okay, Shaggy, you're Fred.
Or just Mr. Jeepers. You're like, oh, you're the villain in this whole thing. So, but in general, no. But yeah, Destiny was talking about that majority alliance that you got Colin Bunn initiated in from the other tribe, pretty much. Like you brought him in to this pact of yours.
The whole like, I think Colin Bunn in his episode with you guys was like, that would be ingenious if Shaggy had like thought through the, oh well, I'm gonna do this to separate him from his tribe. So my whole thought process with that was basically I was thinking, well, we need people, and I need, as like, especially with when it comes to the merge, it would be more comfortable if we didn't just rely on us. Because my whole thought process with this game, I think I say this in the first episode of the show, was I try to make it seem like I'm as much in the middle as I possibly can, while thinking 10, 12, as far ahead as I possibly can. So with that, it was more of a, I need another person, and since he made this comment back in our discussion that, oh, I hate or all my tribe hates me, whether it was a joking comment or not, I didn't know. It was just I was like, I can use that. That can be a possible ally. So I told the group, I was like, well, he said his whole tribe hates him. Let's try to bring him in here. What about him? We have him. We can probably get him on board, because if his whole tribe hates him, then it won't be too hard to bring him in. So
I think it was the smartest thing that you even if Colin Bunn tried to make it seem like it was a master plan, he doesn't actually say these words, which I did go back. I found the clip. He does, in fact, say it, whether it was in a joke or it was exaggerated to the capacity. I totally get by the clip that I got to see why you took what you did and you were like, no, he
like,
thinks
okay.
everyone hates him. He's laughing, saying, let's vote them all out. Why wouldn't we bring him in to have numbers?
Yeah.
Especially at that point, your tribe hadn't lost where the others had been. And so it kind of was a way to balance everything out. The part that I think could have backfired is you didn't know Colin Ray was close to Hannah. And that's what gave a way for Hannah to know that Colin Bunn wasn't actually playing the middle. He was very much with you, but it didn't impact you in any way. Like Colin Ray doesn't capitalize on this. And he wants to play so under the radar and quiet that it doesn't. I think it was genius. I think it was the best thing you did. And I think it gave you so much trust with literally every single member of your tribe, whether you were in a core with them or not, they all had trust because you were giving them this information.
Yeah. One of the main things in my game, I'm a very paranoid person in real life. That's my one thing about Survivor is it literally takes all of the things that in like normal society are probably not the best thing to have, like paranoia and anxiety and all that stuff, and just capitalizes off of all of them. And but in any case, I'm a very paranoid person. So this entire game, I was like, I need to get people to trust me as much as I possibly can because I have a very hard time trust people. I'm probably not going to trust most people this entire game. Because in Survivor, you only can really trust people to a point.
Right.
And I think the only person I genuinely did trust pretty much 100% was Lily up at the end there when we got to the merge and everything like that. But
did you have
it's hard
your
to trust
doubts about Leah then too? We didn't really see you.
I had doubts about every single person pretty much in this game at some point or another. It was I was always on edge in this game. I could trust them up to a point, but there was never in my mind a point where I was like, oh, I am completely safe with these people, because you really can't. And I'm a kind of person that has to have backup plans for backup plans. So
well, the people who thought they were really safe tended to be the people who went home, cough, cough, Henry. So I think that you're always kind of being on your toes and paying attention and never letting your guard down and staying in the game. Literally all, 72 days of this game. I think that paid off. I'll also say that as a viewer watching it, I never saw that paranoid, that freak out, the things that you're saying right now is not what displayed on camera. What displayed on camera was a very charming, fun, really lovable. Like it was actually disgusting how lovable you were. I'm like, okay, be loyal, whatever. And like I talked about this with what's her name right now? I can't even think of her name. Oh my gosh.
Kristen, Sophie.
No,
This is a bad game to play.
Leah and your partner the whole time.
Lily.
I don't know why her name just brain farted me. Okay. I talked about this with Lily, and when the blind side with Hannah happened with her partner, Gabe, right? When Gabe left, and she was so upset. And you went over there and checked on her, where everyone else just kind of stayed to the side talking. And I made the comment, if you wanted to, you would. Don't say, I want to go check on her. Because again, if you wanted to, you would. And you had made it known you were not a Hannah fan. Like Hannah knew you were not a Hannah fan. But you still walked over there and talked to her and was like, hey, game aside, are you okay? And I think that's a testament to you as a person and a human, and why so many people wanted to work with you in this game. Because you are a lovable human. You are a Shaggy of the game. Literally.
And with that, it was a very, this person is like, I didn't know Hannah almost at all at that point, other than the fact that I was trying to get her out. But it was a, like, forget the game for 2 seconds. Hannah's crying over here. We all know what just happened. That was very heavy, and I need to go check on her because, like, I'm not gonna not go check on a person that's sobbing in the corner. I want to help. So that's a point where you say, forget the game for 2 seconds. We have to go see if they're okay. And I think that's the point where College Survivor is not completely different, but a bit different than normal Survivor, because College Survivor, it's more, you have to remember that it is a game. We aren't playing for $1 million. This isn't like super intense reality TV. We're college kids. We still have lives. We still have things we do, and we're still people. So, and even in the real Survivor, we are still people. So it's a thing that sometimes you gotta think about the game second and people's actual, someone's crying in the corner first. So yeah.
And it's like you have a class with this person too, a second hour tomorrow or whatnot. So
Yeah.
You're going to see these people on campus throughout the game.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I tried my best to, as much as I did have this secret side of, I'm constantly paranoid about this game, because you kind of, again, have to be a bit constantly on edge. And I was playing this game as hard as I could. Yeah, there's humanity in things too. So.
And not that I think that it was a game move by any sense, but do you think that that's when the door for you and Hannah starting to have some kind of open communication started? Or does it happen before or after that? When does this, because you guys do have this bond that is so apparent at the end of the season. And to me, it kind of came out of nowhere, where she was going to vote Colin Ray out to save you at different stages, or said she would at different stages. Where does this relationship form, or how?
So for the whole time before the merge and into the merge, at the beginning of the merge, before me and Hannah started working together, Hannah was like, oh, Hannah's enemy number one. In game, obviously, because again, we saw outside of game, she's still a person. I'm still gonna care, but in game, enemy number one. I have to get this person out because she's a genius, and I don't think at all I'll be able to beat her. And then Lily got voted out, and I was like, well, I can't trust Colin Bunn because we'll get into that later, but there's a lot of stuff that happened in that. There was a lot of stuff that happened in that hallway and just I can't trust him, because even if he might take me, we might get to the end together, there's no way I'm gonna win over someone like that's planned out this game that much. And also, he said some shady things, and just so. And then there was Leah, but we can't win the game with 2 versus 7, so, or however many it was. So I thought to myself, all right, let's go to my connections. What can save me? Because that was when that point was when I started. I was like, I have to start playing. I have to not start playing, but I have to I have to be like, I was on alert, like, but there was an aspect of I have a majority. I'm pretty safe now. Now I'm like, oh, I have to be on edge even more than I was. So I look to my allies. I look to people who would possibly give me a chance. And I said, okay, well, I'm not working with Henry because I've tried that before and that obviously didn't work at all. I tried working. I had that conversation with Sophie where both of us literally just lied to each other the entire time. It was
We're putting a pin in this one because we're coming back to that.
the entire conversation was just complete BS. And then there's Kristen, who is Sophie's number one, because that was kind of apparent. So that's going to be pretty difficult. So I was like, all right, Colin Ray. He kind of backstabbed us, but he didn't really. He's dating Hannah, so like he's obviously going to be with her. Let's try him. I think I was on an alliance with him at one point. I don't know if that was real for him, but I have to try it. So that's my conversation with Colin Ray. It wasn't as much of a, this is something I really like, this is going to be the best alliance ever. It was this is a desperate move that I have to make because I need someone. Then after I talked to Colin Ray, which that entire conversation was very much, I need to say whatever I can say to get him to not vote me out. After that conversation, I calmed down. I was like, all right. I was like, Hannah. And I was like, I've been trying to get her out this whole game. Wait, who's the one person? I was like, who's the one person I've been very outwardly trying to get out? Everyone knew I wanted to get out, Hannah. Everyone knew I was so desperate to make her leave this game. What if I worked with her instead? No one would expect that. And that could possibly be a chance. So I thought up my conversation and I went up to Hannah. I texted Hannah, I arranged a meeting, and I sat her down and I said, all right, Hannah, if you are absolutely 100% sure that once, let's say me, Leah, Colin, Bunn all get out, if you are absolutely 100% sure that you are safe with those final 5 and getting to the end, I will leave right now. You vote me out. I won't say another word. But if you are not absolutely 100% sure, let's have a talk. And that's how I started. And then the talk happened. And then we talked it through. And he was like, no, I am not sure. And then I was like, all right, then let's figure this out. And I said, or I broke it down where I said, all right, I don't trust Colin Bunn, whatever. But Leah, like, I was like, you have me, Leah, you, and that can be like a possible final 3. And I say, and I think she mentioned something about Colin Ray at that point. And if I remember correctly, I said, all right, I will work with you. I will be pretty much I will go along with whatever you vote you want me to, which I was obviously going to make plays, but I was trying to make myself look at least as, I was trying desperately. I was trying to give myself a chance. So I said, Leah's my ally, Leah's my close ally. I could probably talk with her and the both of us could vote together. So especially since she also wants to stay in this game. So that gives you 2 votes. And you can basically work with us till the end. And if you need to, after all the rest, you can, if you ever think anything sketchy, vote us out or whatever. But for now, let's work together. And we talked and she was like, all right, I think as it shows in the video, she said, all right, this week we're voting Colin Bunn. I was like, all right, that's fine. I wasn't planning on getting Colin Bunn out this early, but this isn't optimal, but this entire situation isn't optimal. So let's try. And then it just kind of built from there in me working in the way of how can I figure stuff out and still have an option of independence, and once in a while, like, try to convince Hannah to do things that, like, work with my game as well, while also remaining loyal to her so she doesn't get me out of this game, so she can see that I am with her. And through that whole process, especially that talk, because that was a decently long talk we had, and through the process of me voting with her and her sticking with her word, especially that vote where it's final 5, where she doesn't vote with Colin Ray, and she doesn't vote with him against me. And throughout this whole process, the enemy in my brain, Hannah, enemy number 1, is starting to fade away. And this is when it really changes from Hannah's enemy number 1 to Hannah is my greatest rival. That's what it turns into. And that's, I think, where a lot of our bond starts, is because we both saw each other as big Survivor fans, as great players, and as like strategists. Because, and I know you guys have mentioned like Leah not being my number 1, and one of the main reasons for that was because, as you mentioned before, Leah did kind of agree with a lot of people. Not agree, but like Leah did kind of like, oh, let's go along with that, which is smart. But for me in my game, it's a lot easier for me to work with someone who will constantly challenge my ideas and that I can bounce off of constantly and strategize than someone who constantly agrees with me.
So it's funny you say that, because I have a note from way back when I was reading up to refresh before these episodes, and my note says, props to Shaggy, who is only working with these strong-minded women who are not afraid to tell him yes or no. And you supported them in like a way I can't think of another player who has done it like you were as supportive of. I'm sure there is one. I just can't. I've never seen it like this. With Lily being your number 1, yeah, you had other people on the side, but like if Lily wanted to do something, you supported it and you talked it out with her. And then you worked. I would say, Kristen, and I know there's this one episode where they show this conversation, and you guys are both saying that everything that was said in there was BS. The parts that we got to see were actually facts. You tell her, Lily's my number 1. I'm obviously worth. Yeah, like you guys were telling the truth. And I was like, and then we come back and you're like, we just lied to each other. I was like, y'all told no lies. We saw 0 lies told in this clip. So where it, and maybe you thought you guys were lying to each other, but it was actually so bluntly honest that I was like, okay, we're going to see something here. And then I think Sophie just didn't monopolize on the opportunity.
So first of all, starting with the me and Leah work together, I liked why Leah and me worked, I think, really well together is because, yes, the other parts of our alliance were very important and I cared about them very much as players and people, but me and Lily really did before, whenever we had any sort of issue or problem or strategy move, we would sit down and we would talk about it and we bounced ideas off of each other and we worked together and it worked. And that's also what me and Hannah did, because I think Hannah, at least especially as it was going, felt bad that I was constantly like, okay, I'll do whatever you want, because I was trying to stay in the game, and started being like, okay, this is us. And that's when I was like, okay, this is a real alliance now. But with Sophie, so it was the conversation obviously wasn't entirely BS. Like, we did tell each other, hey, here's who we're allied with. Here's who we're working with. Here's our game plan. But it was the kind of lie that on the outside it seems like perfectly honest, because there's sprinkled in truth in between it, so that from the outside perspective, it looks like it's the complete truth. But in reality, both of us are trying our absolute hardest to get the other person to believe us so we can take them out. That was that entire conversation.
And I
And
don't
it
even
was-
understand it because it was like on the Nick vote. Like this conversation happened on the Nick vote, which you guys were both voting Nick. You both were trying to pull in Henry, so you were doing what Henry wanted. You guys were you both laid out who you're working with, who you're loyal to, you're moving forward. And I was like, okay, they just like knowledge dumped each other, and then you both left like he's a liar, she's a liar, and I was like,
we tried our hardest to convince each other, but in the end, neither of us actually believed what the other was saying. And it was I don't know if that could have gone somewhere, but I know after that conversation, I left it and I was thinking, if I vote Henry like she tells me to, I'm going home. Because that's not good. Like, and obviously she also felt the same. She, looking back, it wasn't a thing that was honest. And I know at the end, they don't show this, but in the finale, it was so funny because this wasn't one of the questions that Trevor showed. But one of Sophie's questions were, hey, I gave you this lifeline. Why didn't you use it? But it was still BS from her part too. So I don't know. That question was so confusing for me because I was like,
I don't think she told you bullshit. I think you guys might have had preconceived notions that the crap that you were saying, that you guys are just like lying to one another because you had your guards up. But I think in the moment when you guys were both talking, you might have went in, I'm going to tell her nothing. I'm not going to tell her the truth.
yeah.
But listening, I want you to go back and find this clip and rewatch it. And you'll be like, oh, damn. She really wasn't lying to me. She really like this. But I get it. Perception is really 9/10 of the game. And if you perceive it that way, that's what it is.
Yeah. And I know like the plan for her was we're all going to vote. I think it was like Henry or something like that. We're all going to vote. I forgot who she tells me in the moment to vote for.
Nick.
Was it? Did she tell me?
It was for when you guys were voting Nick, and then you're like, Henry told everyone he has an idol, and then she was like, well, why aren't we voting Henry? That was legit on her part. She really did, and so did you. And you had just talked, and then I was like, okay, and then you're like, no, they're lying to me. And I was like,
because I think it was yeah. I know also that was like secured with we were both talking about voting Henry, and then when it came down to it, neither of us actually voted Henry. So neither of us went along with this entire conversation that we were trying to do, because I know I didn't feel comfortable voting, especially if I knew that all these other people were voting. I didn't feel comfortable voting without all of them. And I know Sophie did go back to her group and was like, hey, I'm going to try to do this and stuff, but still voted Nick. So it was a very strange conversation. I don't know.
But I think a lot of things that were talked about in that conversation were maybe just more common knowledge. You were like, oh, I know Kristen's your number one, so you keep like reiterating this. And you're like, oh yeah, Lily's my number one. And you're like, oh, here's something you don't know, but really, Sophie's like, of course I knew that. And you're probably thinking the same thing. So even though you are telling the truths to each other, but you're not putting anything on the table that you didn't know already, I guess.
Yeah.
That could have been it. You guys were like,
you were
okay,
like,
cool.
Obviously, like your hat is blue. I can see it right there. Just tell me something different. Like,
I also think one of the things was I knew that she was working with Henry at this point, and then she told me to vote out Henry, and I was like, okay. I'm hearing very conflicting things from members of your supposed alliance. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not going to trust this because, as far as I've known, you're like one of Henry's closest allies. So,
well, she wasn't wrong to want to vote him out. Because he was not with her as much as she probably thought. Speaking of liars, not that this is how I want to caveat into this, but one of the biggest, and I actually count it as genius, lies this game was this team idol. This is the Pinky Pax idol. And Colin Bunn comes up with this fantastic plan after Henry flips on you. And basically, you're now in the minority. And he's coming up with this plan to try to save all four of you. And his plan is the Pinky Pax idol. And at first, it seems like it's gonna go well until Colin Bunn pulls you aside and tells you the truth next to the vending machines,
Yeah.
which I call the vending machines of lies. Like it just sucked in all of the lies. What was your thought process on telling everyone about this idol? And did
So
you just think he was crazy?
And did you tell like one person thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to tell the next person." Then you were like, "Well, I need to tell this person now." And then, "Oh, this person needs to know." And did it just kind of
I
like
only told
snowball?
the only person I was planning on telling was Lily. And overall, the only person I actually did tell were Lily and Liam. I didn't tell anyone else about this. I don't actually Henry heard and then told the whole game. I don't remember how Henry knew about this, but I did not tell Henry because I had never trusted Henry once this entire game. I was not going to start by telling Henry this. My plan was just to tell, because here's how it played out. Colin Bunn told me by the vending machine, but you guys don't hear everything that Colin Bunn tells me. Colin Bunn didn't just tell me, hey, this idol's fake. He also told me, hey, and I remember this clearly. He also told me, and I don't remember if this was exactly at the vending machine or he told me a bit later, but he also told me, hey, so when we were sitting at the table, he was like, I've calculated everything out. He was like, when we were sitting at the table, I set up that meeting right before Henry's meeting. And I set up this meeting at an exact time so that I could pull out the idol so that two of the opposite team would walk past, see the fake idol, and then go tell their entire team. Meanwhile, Henry would know about it, and if Henry would tell all the other team just in case the others didn't tell the team because they walked past at the exact time that I planned to pull out the idol, that I planted them to be there. And then he was like, I have calculated every possible scenario for the ending of this game, and I've charted it all out, and this is the one way we can win. And my reaction to all this wasn't, oh, this is genius. It was you're a lot smarter than I ever took you for. Which, not saying I thought Colin Bunn was dumb, but
Yes, you did. It's okay. We all did.
I never thought Colin Bunn was like stupid or anything. I just always took him as the fun, lovable, loyal character. The fun, lovable, loyal character who was working with me and all that stuff. And I'll be honest, before he tells on me this, I was 100% planning on, if I possibly could, taking Colin Bunn to like as far as I could. And then he told me this, and I was like, if you planned out this far and you did all of this, you could easily convince the entire jury to vote for you and do this, because in my own mind, he could say all this and he could say, look at what I've done, look at as much as I've planned, look at how smart I am, and stuff like that. And that's intimidating for me, because really people who are really smart and plan out everything and strategize and really know this game enough to do all that planning and to do all that prediction are really scary for me, because they're the people that get to the end. They're the people. Colin Bunn's only real mistake, because he had convinced the entire tribe that not that he didn't know what he was doing, but that he didn't really know what he was doing. And he had played that part, that loyal, lovable guy, lovable softy guy so well that I don't think anyone in the game really predicted this. And then it happened, and I know I was just really scared. And what do I do when I'm really scared? I go to my ally number one, and we talk about it, and we chat, and we say, okay, this is this possible threat, especially the fact that he didn't tell you guys about it, because this is apparently our team idol, and I guess he wasn't planning on telling any of us. What do we do? So then me and Lily talk about it, and Lily's like, I'm not going to make you do anything, but I think you should tell Leah. Because I feel like we all should, if this is truly a team idol, we all should know about it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So then I go tell Leah, and then I'm like, all right, now the four of us know we can still go with the plan, but I'm not voting Colin Bunn out, but I'm really sketched out by him. And then, it got out further, and again, I'm not sure how that happened, but it got out further, and to Henry, and then once Henry knows, the entire game knows, because that's how Henry is, apparently. And then everything went downhill from there. But
I'll never forgive you for not allowing me to see this play out. This is my one thing, because I think it works. I do. I think it works.
When I looked, now looking back, especially on the whole plan and everything like that, like, I think it might have worked, but I definitely do not think I would be in the end if it did. Because the other part of this was me when I was talking with Leah about this, we were like, okay, not only does he have this whole plan, because I didn't tell Leah and Lily everything. I've told them bits and pieces about it, but I was talking with Lily about the fact that Colin Bunn said, hey, at the Final Four, we'll just whoever wins the challenge and stuff. And I was thinking, okay, not only is he a lot smarter than I ever took him for and a lot more strategic, but he's also planning on leaving the end to whoever wins the challenge. And I can't assure that. That's not something I can plan. That's not something I can bank on, because I won a single challenge this whole game. Like, Colin Bunn's...
You don't think that you beat them in challenges?
Depending on what challenge it was. If it was a puzzle, if it was a puzzle or like some sort of thing like that, I feel like Colin Bunn or Lily would have won. And then, but
I think you set yourself short a little bit here, Shaggy, and that's okay. You can be modest, but I think you are a much better competitor than you give yourself credit for. At least how I seen it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But you didn't try as hard in all of the challenges, because not only were you not this challenge beast, there were you were good, but you weren't beasting. And you didn't need to win them. And then at the end, when you did need to win them, suddenly you can win all of the challenges? Question mark?
That was... So what happened... how I won, I'm not saying I wouldn't have won the end. The pole endurance challenge was one thing. That was one of the most painful things I've almost ever done. That was awful. I hated that entire experience. Everyone hated that entire experience. That was except for Henry, apparently, who was just fine the whole time.
Okay, Henry.
But during that end challenge, I know Hannah, and part of me felt bad for this, but I was like, okay, I won. It's okay. And Hannah, so one of the rules, I don't know if they put this, was one of the rules when you're staying there, your feet had to touch the wall and they could not leave the wall or you were out. Hannah looked down to make sure her feet were still touching the wall. And because she stopped focusing on this part of the challenge and checked her feet, which is another part of the challenge, her hand slipped and it fell.
Oh, that's what it was, because it really came out of nowhere. We didn't really expect it, but now...
That's why Hannah dropped. So it could have gone on for hours and hours and hours. And I would have stuck it into the end because, again, the pole challenge was one thing, but this was if I get this, I'm guaranteed to get to the end. I know I at least have a really good chance of winning if I just make it to the end, because Hannah might beat me out when it comes to like physical challenges and strategy and like game playing and all of this. But the one up I had on Hannah was I'm better at social. I'm better at a social game than Hannah. That's the only thing I had on her. But I was like, the one trick of Survivor is if you can make it to the end, and this is one of my Survivor philosophies, I think. If you can, it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter how you play the game, but you can play the game one of 1,000 ways. And if you get to the end and you're good enough at talking to people and you're good enough at convincing people of your goals and making yourself out to be this great person, this great player, a lot of people will be slayed, especially in College Survivor when there's a different setting and stuff. So, but either way, yeah.
The new Survivor motto: outwit, outplay, outlikable.
So,
Outshine, I think.
I had known that even though Hannah's a genius player, and to this day, one of like, oh my God, she's one of the most strategic, smart players I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
like,
even speaking of challenges, you all try to throw a challenge to get her out. Like, why?
Why did we throw the challenge?
Yeah.
I mean, we know why, but like, why?
Hannah's just. I went into the end, so I knew that my one shot was, as long as I get to the end, I can talk my way out of it, because I'm a theater major. I talk way too much. But my one thing is,
was your fan club. It was literally they came in with your face on their T-shirt.
Really was like once Lily was over there, like I'm sure she was going like "Go Shaggy" the entire time.
Yeah, I knew that as long as I made it to the final 3, I had a good shot of winning. Because first of all, Hannah had kind of just like from the outside view, Hannah had just backstabbed. Well, Hannah had just backstabbed her entire team. And since this is College Survivor, people are a lot less willing to say, hey, that strategic move was good. That was really cool. And say, oh, she voted me out. I'm not voting for her ever. Like, Henry was on his phone the entire challenge. I think he fell asleep at the entire end. I think he fell asleep at the final jury at some point. Like, he went into that saying, I'm voting for Shaggy, and he just didn't care the entire time, which was not great. I didn't like that too much, but
karma's a bitch, and it'll happen to him. Like, somebody will give him the same treatment one day. But it wasn't cool. Well, I guess so. The hard question is, do you think that you deserve to win the game?
Honestly, I'm really proud of the game I played. I played as hard as I possibly could. Again, I say it to this day, I only made one mistake that I regret in this game. I have one single regret, and that is making the promise I did in the final challenge. I do not regret a single other thing. But that promise was a promise that I use in real life as a thing of, this is something I physically cannot break, and it should not have ever been part of the game. And to this day, that is the one and only thing I regret from this game. So other than that, I looked back and I said, I played my hardest. Did I play a perfect game? No, but I played my hardest. So yes, I think I deserve to win. Do I think Hannah was a better player? Yes, of course. Because I think she was. And me and Leah literally sit down and have a conversation when it was the 4 of us saying, or it might have been 5 of us or so. At some point when it was me, Leah, and Hannah and Colin Ray working together, me and Leah had a whole conversation about if one of us or both of us, if one of us gets to the end and one of us is still in the end and Hannah's there, we will not at all blame each other if the person that jury votes for Hannah, because we were like, this is okay. Not that we need to say that, but we had the whole discussion of, we both think Hannah's a genius and it's okay to vote for her. We have no obligations to each other because we're close allies. It's okay. And as much as
I think you're very, like, I'm not upset that you won the game, so I don't want you to think that my question was setting you
I
up for
got you. No,
failure.
I got you.
I just know that there's games that I've played and I've won, and I was like, I should not have won that one.
Yeah.
Or there's games when I've got second, and I'm like, y'all stupid. That was my game. Like, okay, you do you. And so I just like if you feel proud of what you did, and I think you played a fantastic game. Going back to your promise, I understand the emotional side of the game and being in the moment and the things that you say. The part that I will respect 1,000,000% is there's people in these games and there's people in society who will make those promises. They will say the things that they say, and then the next day they will be like, it's a game. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, whatever form of it. And I give you so much respect for honoring your promise. It's not something that I think that you say lightly. It's definitely something that I've said in games where I was like, listen, like, I know you don't believe me or you don't trust me or there's this doubt. I give you my word. I've never broken one. Like, this is the promise that I give. And following through with those things means so much. So good for you. And good for you not taking the peer pressure because you were getting it from all sides. Break the promise, Shaggy. It's just a game. It's not a big deal. And you were like, no, come up with another plan. Sorry.
I think there's a period, and you can kind of see it, between that challenge and that tribal where I went a little bit crazy because I was back. I made this promise and I was like, how do I get Leah to the end of this game? How am I going to do this? And so I think at some point, Trevor will always make fun of me because I came up to him and I think I said, am I allowed to write my own name down at some point? Because I think I had thought because I have immunity, my vote wouldn't count, and then if they voted against each other, it would be a definite 2. And if Leah and Colin Ray both voted for someone, or if Leah and Hannah had both voted for someone and I voted for myself, then it would be a 2 versus 1 and my vote wouldn't count or something. I was going crazy trying to figure out how, and it ended up being, it really ended up being me having to just say, hey, let's try to get them to vote against each other. They said they would at some point. And then there was afterwards, which I found this out after, apparently, where after that whispering challenge, Leah 100%, I don't know if it was 100%, but Leah was so angry because she thought that I voted against her. I wrote her name down. And obviously Colin wrote her name down, but it was a thing of that period was, if there was a most stressful time in the game, it was probably that. Not that moment because I was safe. It was, but that was one of the most stressful ones in the game because I was like, I really want Leah to get to the end.
Yeah. Dustin and I talked about this last week, and we did come up with a few different scenarios, or I did, and Dustin let me go down my crazy wormhole with theories. And I think that if you and Leah don't both attack them separately, I think if just one of you executes it because they're talking to one another, right? And so if the other one doesn't have the ability and you're just like, listen, you need to pump it up. You've been saying this all game. Like, just write his name down. He's not going to go home like, obviously, I'm not voting you. You're going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. Just write his name down, and then it's not a big deal. So it can prove that. And this is the thing, and it'll, like, worst case scenario, ties in, but it'll be a 2-1-1 because I'm voting Leah. And don't say the promise part of it. Then it's a 2-1-1 because you and Leah vote together. But it was the fact that both of you were doing it where they're like, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. But really a 2-1-1, I think, was your only way of doing it. And it wasn't going to happen with both of you being like, hey, vote Leah, vote Leah. And you being like, hey, pump it up to the gamer of, hey, pump up this resume, say that you'll make the cut. You tried, but Shaggy and Leah wouldn't do it. Or however, you know what I mean? Like, however you want to say it, blame it on me when you come to give your jury speech as to why you're not here. And the other part is, I still stand by, she should have wanted him on the jury.
Exactly. She should have, the same way that Lily was on the jury for you. Like, Colin Ray could have been on that jury for her.
Yeah, Leah, I know when we had the discussion, that was the one point where our like alliance that we had this whole game kind of like not broke but cracked a bit because she was upset that I wouldn't vote her out, but I was like, I made this promise, I physically can't. I was upset that she refused because she was like, I was like, I'm not willing to write Hannah's name down. I made a promise. And she was like, well, I'm not willing to write Colin's name down. So it was kind of we were at a standstill of neither of us are willing to vote this person out. How do we do this? And yeah, we definitely should have split them up and did it. But we were so tired at that point. I know I wasn't thinking clearly. Because that was I think the first point in the entire game that I hadn't had my person that I can bounce off ideas. So when I cracked, there wasn't the run to the other strategic person and then throw out the idea and then they throw out idea. Me, because I work best when I work best when I work good when I'm under pressure, but I work best when I'm under pressure, but also when I have someone else to throw ideas at me, because I can build off of things really well. And when I have someone that is like that as well, we can build off of each other's ideas and make pretty good plans. So there was a bunch of factors that led to Leah going home. But all in all, and I think Leah could have had a shot at winning this game. Now, could Colin Ray have had a shot at winning this game?
I think we said the same thing last week as well. We were like, we don't really see that.
I honestly think Colin Ray could have had a shot if he made a case. Because Colin Ray, no offense to Colin Ray, but Colin Ray didn't make a case, really, this whole game. Or the entire jury. His whole thing was, okay, I'm at the end, this is where I wanted to be. Okay, cool. But if he had played himself up better, and if he had said, like, oh, I did all these things, because watching back, I didn't know of even a fourth of the things that Colin Ray did in this game. I didn't know about any of it. I just thought, like, from what I could see, he didn't do anything at all. But I'm realizing, yeah, he did do a few strategic things. There were things that he did, but he didn't say any of it. And he didn't talk about any of it. None of the pre-merge things, none of post-merge things. He didn't play himself up at all. He didn't try to convince anyone. And that's where I think whether Colin Ray played a good or bad game, you can say for yourself. But that's where Colin Ray fell through, is when he just decided to quit when he was at the finish line. So
is that your biggest surprise watching the episodes back and realizing how many moves he did actually play? Or
I think one of my biggest surprises was honestly, first of all, the fact that Colin Ray and Abby worked together. No one knew about that. We didn't know about that at all. I don't think he ever mentioned that. He might have at some point, like way later on after the game ended, but throughout the entire game, no one except for I think Hannah knew about that. Like,
I think that was part of his strategy, was to just be this, tell me what to do, guys. I'm up for whatever. Like the Sandra D's twine on crack strategy. Yeah. Anyone but me, but you're not even going to know that I voted because I'm so under the radar. Yeah. And he was very, he did have a lot of strategic talks, but they came from Hannah. So I think, unfortunately, it just gets overpowered. Just like I give Leah had the best read on the game, but she was so agreeable with everyone that nobody even got to see that. Yeah. Leah would have went to the final round table or the final tribal and been like, I saw this, 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 and this. And you all would have been like, no, you did not. And she'd be like, I told you. You'd be like, did you? Because she's just a people pleaser in that aspect.
And also, Leah, I say that, like, I think I'm too skeptical in this game, but I think one of the things where Leah falls through a bit is, or Lily, I mean, Lily falls, you were talking about Leah, different person. Sorry, I heard that wrong. I thought you said Lily. I'm sorry. Leah definitely could have done a lot more if she hadn't been. Leah and Colin Ray could have done a lot more if both of them hadn't just agreed with if they had, because I know when, even though me and Lily talked about stuff and we bounced ideas off of each other, after that we did go to the group, whatever group we were in at the point, and say, hey, what should we do? What do you guys think? And when we were with Colin Ray and Leah, they were both like, that sounds good. And we were like, this is a lot shorter of a discussion than we ever planned for because neither of you really said anything. So they did make plays at some point, but I think both of them could have been such stronger players if they had just challenged whatever ideas were in their group, because we're an alliance. We're not going to vote your name out for every single possible thing you say. You don't have to say yes to absolutely everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she just didn't want to upset anyone. I don't know. When she did have the best reads on the game, and really if she would have pushed more, it probably would have been the 4 pinky pack at the end of the game, because she just, like, the things that she was saying and she caught on so early. Yeah. You would have found a way, because that information was out there when you came up with a plan. She may not have had the most strategic mind in executing something, but she had the information down to get you to point B to get that done. So well, congratulations on winning.
Thank you.
It was a fantastic season. I also would like to say I called it episode 1, so yay me. Even if I did, for pretty much the later half of the season, want a female to win so bad, because I think the female in this cast, the women were just so strong, and not to take away your game, like, you were fantastic.
No.
But it's just lovely to see strong women.
It was, Hannah and Lily were, like, there were other strong women, but Hannah and Lily especially were like powerhouses in this game. I think Hannah could definitely I think Hannah could definitely go on Survivor CBS and have a good shot at winning, because Hannah's a genius. Like,
she would have to ungame bot it. We got to get her she was clocked as a genius very early. She would have to pull in some of that Colin Bunn energy where people just don't see it. Regardless of his crazy antics, he really did have a lot of very intelligent ideas. Just the execution was just so. In my community, we call it crackhead energy. Not that he's a crackhead, but it's just crackhead energy where you're like, whoa, where did this come from? This is too crazy. But I still think the Team Idol was the best thing that I've ever seen. You guys ruined it.
This was overall just a fantastic experience. I know, like I said, for Lily's one of my closest friends. John, who was at the beginning, the end, is my roommate. He's one of my roommates. So he's one of my closest friends as well. And we have fun antics. And Leah is the other person who I don't talk to all that much, but she's the other person that I do text once in a while. I say hi to her when passing. We've gotten lunch a couple times. This is a fun game, and I made a lot of friends. And I tried my hardest, and it was the coolest thing ever to win. But overall, it was just a really fun experience. And I do hope to be on actual Survivor someday. That may or may not be one of my life dreams. I really want to do that.
We do have season 3 of Survivor CNU starting in just a few months. I know the boys are working on the editing and everything. Something to do with water. Do you remember the title of it?
It keeps so, as you might have told, Trevor's titling scheme goes it's the journey of a ship, basically. So it's on maiden voyage in deep water. So each name is a different part of the journey of this ship or whatever, because Go Captains, CNU is the captains, that's our mascot. Everything here is nautical themed. That's how it works. So I think it was It might be Lost at Sea.
I think that's what it is.
Maybe it's Lost at Sea. Okay. I get the names mixed up, but I believe the next one it's Maiden Voyage in Deepwater Lost at Sea. Yeah.
And then I'm excited too. Destiny made some comments about how we saw lots of powerful females in this past season, which you played in, Shaggy. And I feel like in the preview, we have a lot more characters to discuss in this next season. That's for sure.
I love the character telling of Survivor CNU. I have complimented Colin and Trevor so much on which is just a testament to you guys as people, but the stories that we got to see and the characters that were developed and this overall loving nature, like I wanted so much more. I think I could talk to when Lily was on here, Dustyn could like go off air. I wouldn't even know that he was gone.
Now, Trevor was here too for that one, and we just sat back. That was all it was.
Absolutely.
Like, I just want more. Listening and talking to Hannah, I'm like, I just want more. I want you to teach me to be more like you. Like, I want to be like you when I grow up, Hannah. Kristen and Leah are fantastic. Nick was so much fun to talk to. You've been so much fun to talk to.
Dustyn, really quick, you asked what my most shocking point was. Nick's entire game. I knew nothing about Nick this whole game because I was never on a tribe with him. He was voted out first for some reason. None of us ever knew that. I watched this whole thing expected to find out why everyone voted Nick. I still don't know why everyone voted Nick. Because Henry wanted it to.
It was the only person Henry wasn't working with, and Nick was gone. So Henry was able to stay in the middle, and I called it. I said, he's going to blow it right here. You can play in the middle.
But Nick's genius in this game, like Nick was a smart player, and I didn't know any of it until I saw this. And that was one of the coolest things watching this game is how much Nick did that I never saw, and I know, like the Pinky Pack, none of us really ever saw because we weren't with him. We didn't see his game, but he did set up so many things this game. He made so many substantial moves. And I'm really sad that he went. I'm really sad that Henry got him out because he wanted to ? I guess. But yeah, so.
Mm-hmm. But for anybody watching at home that has just watched this and kind of knows the ending now, of course, Shaggy wins. But it's like any great TV show or any great movie. Go back and rewatch it. You may know the ending, but you don't know all the little parts that got us to the end and what brings us here tonight. So,
and definite credit to Trevor and Colin and all of Trevor's family who helps out with this. Trevor, I know for me and for Lily, and especially for the two of us, but for, I'm sure, the rest of the cast. Trevor meant a lot to us. Trevor is, like, we were just freshmen. Me, Lily, a few others, we were freshmen. We didn't know anyone, and Trevor kind of took us in and gave us this awesome club that we got to fight our hardest. And I know I owe so much at CNU to him because of confidence and because of all the stuff that he helped us through this game that he poured. I know Trevor some people spend college doing sports or focusing on academics or focusing on social. Trevor poured all of it into this club. He spent the last 2.5 years, all of his junior year, all of his senior year, and the second semester of his sophomore year into this club. And he put so much effort into it, and he put all he had, and this was his college. This was CNU for him, and all of us saw it, and all of us absolutely loved him for all the work he did and all the stuff he did for us. And I know, so all kudos to Trevor and Colin, who spent so much endless hours, even though he's not even at CNU anymore, editing and just all their family.
Well, we had a great season. I'm so excited. Dustyn, I've already said thank you so many times for giving me this opportunity to come in here and just let me kind of podcast. I was called the main podcaster today, so you know.
Yeah, well, you were for sure. We all know that. So
just thank you for giving me the chance and seeing something in me that I didn't see, because I thought you were crazy when you said I could do it.
The day that I gave you admin permission, you were like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Fantastic! You were amazing." So we knew this would be right up your alley.
Well, thank you. We do have later in the week, we're going to be talking to more Survivor CNU contestants. I won't tell you who, but I think it's somebody who's going to have a lot to debate with me. So figure it out or don't figure it out.
Exactly. So stay tuned for more recaps and interviews from Survivor CNU. And of course, catch us at Live Reality Games on Facebook and on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you get your social media. And of course, we are looking forward to season 3, Lost at Sea at CNU.
Shaggy, once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
To those of you who are watching who are in this LRG and ORG community, it has just been posted that we have lost one of our own. So I just want to add in there that if anyone needs to talk, to communicate, to reach out, if you're going through something, I am here. Send me a DM. Peter Vicari was loved. He was a valuable member of the community, and we all in love and appreciate everyone here. I know, Shaggy, you don't know who he is, but people who are watching might. So just know that my DMs are open if anyone needs somebody to talk to. The community is very close, and so we just experienced a loss. So
till next time.